Welcome to Awakening Your Faith. It is a joy to have you here, and I believe that nothing happens by chance. Today, God has reserved this special moment to speak to your heart. Before we begin, I want to invite you to reflect with me on one of the most powerful Psalms in the Bible, Psalm 46. It begins by saying, "God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble." Notice how these words bring life, strength, and at the same time a silent promise. You are not alone. Even if everything around you seems to be falling apart, there is a safe place. There is someone who protects you beyond what your eyes can see. But what exactly is a refuge? Imagine being in the middle of a violent storm, the wind screaming, the rain beating down, and suddenly you find a strong house with heavy doors, firm windows, where no wind can enter. Inside, you feel peace, you breathe, you feel safe. A refuge is just that. It's the place where your soul hides from pain, anxiety, and fear. It's where your heart finds rest. But do we really understand what it means to have God as our refuge? Or are we often trying to find shelter in places that only bring us even more pain? Today I want to take you on this journey. Let's discover together where to find true protection and what happens when we stop fighting alone. Stay with me until the end, because God has something special reserved for your heart. And believe me, you will still be surprised by what He has prepared. When life falls apart, where do we seek protection? This is a question that we often try to avoid, but the truth is that all of us at some point face difficult days. Days when the ground seems to open up, plans fall apart, bad news knocks on our door, and our fragile hearts desperately search for a safe place to hide. In these moments, where do you run to? Some run to friends, hoping to find comfort. Others try to distract themselves with work, the internet, the pleasures of this world. There are those who seek shelter in money, in achievements, in relationships. But deep down, these refuges are fragile. They may even provide relief for a moment, but they soon disappear, like smoke in the wind. It is in these moments that we understand that true refuge is not made of walls or human promises. True refuge is a person. It is God, the one who remains unshakable when everything around us falls apart. Maybe today, you are trying to protect yourself in places that do not have the strength to sustain you. Maybe your heart is tired of running, and I understand you. But what if I told you that there is a shelter that never fails? That there is a refuge that does not collapse, that does not abandon you, that does not disappear when the storms come? Don't leave there. There is still something you need to hear. Something that can change the way you face the storms. The difference between human protection and divine refuge. We often place our trust in human protections. It's natural. We seek security in people, in our own abilities, in the structures we've built with so much effort. A good job, a stable bank account, a close-knit family, loyal friends, all of these are blessings without a doubt. But none of these things are infallible. Human beings are limited. Circumstances change. Promises break. Strength runs out. Human protection is like a wooden fence. On calm days, it seems solid. But all it takes is a strong wind, a violent storm for it to start to crack. And you realize it was never that solid. But divine refuge, divine refuge is completely different. It is like a fortress built on solid rock, resistant to any gale. God doesn't just protect us, He is our protection. It's not something He offers once in a while, depending on the situation. That's who He is, an eternal, impenetrable, unshakable shelter. When you take refuge in God, you're not trusting in something that can fail. You're surrendering yourself to the arms of the Almighty, who sees beyond what your eyes can see, who cares for you even when you don't realize it. Perhaps you've experienced the disappointment of trusting in something or someone who has failed. But what if starting today you decided to take refuge in the one who never fails? The journey to that safe place is just beginning, and there are still precious secrets to be revealed. God is not just a shelter, He is the impenetrable fortress. When we talk about God as a refuge, we need to understand something even deeper. He is not just a shelter where we can temporarily hide until the storm passes. He is a fortress, an impenetrable fortress. Think about it. A fortress is built to withstand the enemy. It is made of thick walls, high towers, and firm foundations. Those inside it can hear the noise of the battle outside, but they know they are safe. Danger may be near, but it cannot touch. That is God. He does not just welcome us. He surrounds us. He envelops us with His invincible strength. He stands between us and danger, between us and fear, between us and everything that wants to bring us down. You are not hiding in some corner. You are protected by the God who created the universe with the word of His power. And there is no wind, no storm, no enemy that can break through the walls of His love for you. How does God act in times of anguish? Sometimes when we are in the midst of pain, it seems that God is far away. But Psalm 46 makes a truth as clear as daylight. God is a very present help in anguish. Look carefully at these words, very present. It is not tomorrow. It is not when everything is resolved. It is not when you are strong again. It is now. It is in the midst of crying. It is at the moment when fear tightens your chest. It is while the tears are still flowing and doubt tries to scream louder. God does not act from a distance. He draws near. He enters the storm with you. He is the immediate help, the hug in the middle of the night, the peace that invades without asking permission. Do you know that moment when you feel like you can't take it anymore? That is precisely when God reveals Himself the most. Sometimes He doesn't take away the pain immediately, but He becomes the strength that sustains you within it. Sometimes He doesn't calm the storm, but He calms your heart so that you can get through the storm without being destroyed. God is a Father who doesn't abandon His children in times of struggle. He is the help that arrives before you even finish calling for help. He is the invisible hand that lifts you up when your strength runs out. If you are experiencing a moment of anguish today, know that you are not waiting alone. Help is already on the way. In fact, it has already arrived. And in the next step of our journey, you will see powerful examples of this happening, stories that will warm your faith. Maybe, until now, you have thought that God was just a fragile shelter, something you turn to when there is no way out. But He is much more. He is your fortress, firm, unshakable, eternal. And do you know what is most incredible? This fortress is always open to whoever decides to enter. Are you ready to take that step? We still have a lot to discover, and something precious is coming. Biblical examples of people who found refuge in God. The Bible is a living book, filled with real stories of people like you and me. People who, in moments of despair, ran to God and found refuge in Him. Look at David, for example, persecuted by enemies, betrayed by those close to him, spending nights hiding in caves. And yet, he wrote psalms that overflow with confidence in God. David did not find safety in his own weapons or strategies. He found refuge in the Lord. What about Moses? Imagine leading a stubborn and frightened people, crossing deserts, facing the might of Egypt, enduring threats from all sides. Moses knew that his refuge was not in the strength of men, but in the powerful presence of God who went before him, like a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. And what about Elijah? A courageous prophet who, in a moment of exhaustion and fear, fled into the desert and asked to die. And it was there, in the silence of their pain, that God revealed Himself in such a delicate way, not in an earthquake, nor in fire, but in a gentle breeze, showing that true refuge is not always noisy but is certain. These men were not superheroes. They were fragile, flawed, human, but they all discovered the same secret. When everything falls apart, God is the place where the soul finds life again. And do you know what's best? This same God who protected David, guided Moses, and restored Elijah, is the God who is now, right now, reaching out to you. Can you feel that hand? Don't leave, because there is something even deeper for us to discover. Is the promise of Psalm 46 for everyone or just for some? Perhaps you are asking yourself, is this promise really for me? Does God really see me, hear me, protect me? And I want to tell you something that can change your life. Yes, this promise is for you. Psalm 46 does not impose complicated conditions. It does not say that God will be a refuge only for the perfect, the strong, the religious, or those who never make mistakes. The promise is for all those who choose to trust. Trusting is different from being perfect. Trusting is opening your heart and saying, God, I can't do it alone, I need you. The door to the divine fortress is always open, but those who enter it are those who decide to believe. Even without understanding everything, they are those who, in the midst of chaos, choose to take a step of faith towards God. It doesn't matter what your past is. It doesn't matter how many times you stumbled. It doesn't matter if you feel small, weak, or even unworthy today. God's protection is not earned. It is received through faith. Right now, you can take refuge under the wings of the Almighty. Right now, you can be enveloped by the love that does not reject, abandon, or give up on you. And do you know what is even more powerful? In the next few moments, I will show you how in practice to hide spiritually in God. Stay with me, because your faith is about to take even deeper roots. How to hide spiritually in God. Perhaps your heart is now yearning. These three paths, prayer, worship, and the Word, are like doors that lead you directly into the divine fortress. And no matter how loud the storm is outside, when you take shelter in these places, you connect to the God who guards you from within. And here's a secret. The more you hide in God, the stronger and safer you will feel. Not because the battle has disappeared, but because you will be protected by the one who has won it. And there's still something we need to talk about. Why, even knowing all this, do we so often forget to seek refuge in God? Don't leave, because understanding this could be the key to a new era in your life. Why do we often forget to seek refuge in God? If it is so clear that God is our refuge, why do we so often run everywhere, except to Him? The truth is that the human heart is easily deceived. We tend to look for quick, visible, tangible solutions. We want to solve problems right away, to alleviate the pain in any way we can. And without realizing it, we end up trying to hide in things that cannot sustain us. Sometimes, it is pride that holds us back. We want to prove that we can do it alone, that we are strong enough to deal with the pain, that we do not need to bother God with our small problems. Other times, it is the fear of rejection. We think, will God accept me like this? Will He still want me after everything I have done? And then there is tiredness. When the soul is exhausted, we do not always have the strength to cry out. It seems easier to give in to discouragement than to seek shelter in the fortress. But the good news is that God knows every one of these inner battles. And even when we forget about Him, He doesn't forget about us. He keeps calling, whispering to our hearts, "Come close. Come rest in me. I am your refuge today and forever." You don't have to be perfect to run to God. You just have to be sincere. He is waiting, arms open, heart pulsating with love, ready to be your hiding place in any storm. And if you think that sounds nice in theory, wait until you hear real stories from people who have experienced this protection firsthand. Real or personal testimonies of moments of refuge. Now, I want to tell you something powerful. Real testimonies of people who, just like you and me, have gone through difficult times, but found refuge in God. I know stories of people who were at rock bottom without hope, but when they surrendered themselves completely to God, they experienced His presence in a way that changed their lives forever. A friend of mine, for example, went through a time of loss. She lost a loved one and was devastated. But when she took refuge in God, something incredible happened. She felt an inexplicable peace, a peace that the world could not understand. She did not deny the pain but found in God the comfort she so desperately needed. And there is also the testimony of a brother who, in the midst of a financial crisis, felt that everything was falling apart. The doors seemed closed, but he surrendered himself to the Lord, seeking refuge through prayer and the Word. And in a short time, God opened doors that he had never imagined. The situation did not change immediately, but he changed inside. Faith and trust in God kept him strong, and the solution came at the right time. These testimonies are not stories of perfect people. They are stories of ordinary people with challenges, with weaknesses. But they are stories of people who, in their darkest moments, found a safe refuge in God. What about you? Have you ever lived a moment when you felt like there was no way out, but God appeared somehow? Or maybe you are still waiting for that refuge. Whatever your situation, remember, God is the refuge that never fails. He can transform your pain into hope, your anguish into peace, your fear into confidence. In the next step, we will discover the inexplicable peace that comes when we take refuge in God. Don't leave, because the best is yet to come. The inexplicable peace of those who take refuge in the Lord. Have you ever stopped to think about how God's peace is different from any other peace the world offers? The world promises us peace, but often this peace is temporary, based on external circumstances. The peace that God offers us, however, is something profound that comes from within. It does not depend on what is happening around you. It does not depend on your financial situation, your relationship, or your achievements. It comes from the heart of God, and it is this peace that He wants to give you. Imagine this. You are in the middle of a storm, with everything around you screaming, but inside you there is a calm that makes no sense. You are facing chaos, but in your heart, there is a serenity that can only come from God. This is the inexplicable peace of those who take refuge in the Lord. The Bible tells us that this peace surpasses all understanding. Philippians 4:7. This means that even when everything seems to be falling apart, you can have a peace that makes no sense to outsiders, but is completely real to those who are experiencing it. This peace is the result of taking refuge in God. When you take refuge in Him, you not only find security, but you also experience peace that surpasses human limits. You know that no matter what the difficulties, the Lord is in control and will keep you. You feel that deep down you are safe, protected, and loved. And the amazing thing is that this peace is available to all who seek refuge in the Lord. No matter how big the storm, you can experience this peace. You can be a man or a woman who, even in the face of adversity, remain steadfast because you know that God is your refuge. If you have never experienced this peace, I invite you to seek more of God, to take refuge in Him, and see how He will transform your anxiety into rest. In the next few steps, we will talk about what to do while we wait for God's help. Something profound is coming, so don't leave just yet. I want this refuge, I want this protection. But how do I do this in practice? Hiding spiritually in God is not something complicated or reserved only for special people. It is a daily choice, simple but powerful. First, prayer. Talking to God is opening your soul. It is pouring out what you feel without masks, without fear of judgment. It is coming before Him as you are, with your pains, your fears, your uncertainties, and trusting that He understands even what you cannot put into words. Second, worship. When you worship, your eyes go from the size of the problem to the size of the God you serve. Worship is not just music. It is a heart that, even in tears, says, "Lord, you are good. You are faithful. I trust in you." Third, God's Word. The Bible is the hiding place where God reveals His thoughts about you. It is by reading and meditating on the Word that your mind is renewed, your heart is strengthened, and your faith is nourished. What to do while we wait for God's help? Waiting is not easy. Anxiety begins to grow, our hearts beat faster, and sometimes the feeling that time is dragging on is almost unbearable. When you are seeking refuge in God, you often find yourself in this period of waiting. You know that God is your refuge, you know that He will act. But the answer has not yet arrived. And it is at this moment that the big question arises. What to do while we wait? First, trust in God's faithfulness. God does not promise that He will answer in His time or in the way you expect, but He promises that He will never leave you alone. He always acts in His own time, and that is what we need to remember while we wait. Don't let the wait make you doubt His love and care. Second, keep praying and seeking God. Prayer is not just a way of asking, it is a way of connecting with God's heart. As you continue to pray, you strengthen your faith and open your heart to hear what God wants to teach you while you wait. He's not just preparing the answer, He's also shaping you in the process. Third, keep your peace in God. When you take refuge in God, His peace fills your heart. Even while you wait, you can experience this peace. Remember that while you wait, God is working in you and around you. He's taking care of every detail, even if you can't see it. Fourth, use the time to grow spiritually. Waiting can be a time of growth. Seek more of God through reading His Word, worship, and meditation. Let each moment of waiting draw you closer to God and strengthen you spiritually. Perhaps God is using this time to prepare you for something greater, and your trust in His sovereignty will grow with each step. Finally, don't lose hope. The Bible tells us that those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. Isaiah 40:31. Even if God's help has not yet arrived, your faith can be renewed each day as you remember His promises and continue walking in trust. Waiting is not easy, but it is a time of preparation and trust. And God is never late. He arrives at just the right time. We are almost at the end of this journey, but before we do, there are powerful verses that will further strengthen your understanding of taking refuge in God. Additional verses about God. As a refuge, the Bible is filled with verses that confirm the truth that God is our safe refuge. Let's dive into a few of them to further strengthen our trust in the Lord. First, look at Psalm 91:2. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. These words are a powerful statement of trust. The psalmist not only acknowledges God as his refuge, but also affirms that He is the fortress he relies on. When you take refuge in God, you are leaning on the strength of the Creator, on His ability to protect and sustain you, no matter what happens. In Proverbs 18:10, the Word teaches us, the name of the Lord is a strong tower, the righteous run to it and are safe. Here we see that the name of God is like a tower, an impenetrable place of safety. The righteous, the one who trusts in the Lord, finds refuge in God and is safe. No matter what comes from outside, when you run to God, you will find protection. And then there is Psalm 62:6. My soul finds rest in God alone. My salvation is delight. This verse reminds us that true and deep rest comes from God. It is not a superficial rest, but a rest that soothes our soul, bringing peace and salvation. In God we find the relief that our souls so desperately need. These verses are like anchors for our faith. They remind us that God is our constant and unchanging refuge. When the world around us is unstable, He remains steadfast, ready to protect and keep us. Now, are you more secure in the knowledge that God is your refuge? Well then, in the next and final step of this journey, we will conclude with a special invitation. An invitation to rest in God today. An invitation to rest in God today. We have reached the end of this journey, and I want to extend an invitation to you. If you haven't already, now might be the perfect time. Surrender yourself completely to God. If you've been seeking refuge in so many things, in work, in people, in pleasure, or even in control, I want to invite you to seek refuge in God today, right now. He is the only safe place where your soul can truly rest. God calls you to find rest in His love, His protection, and His faithfulness. Even if the storms of life are still raging around you, you can experience the peace that only He can offer. This peace doesn't depend on circumstances. It comes from the heart of God and invades your heart when you take refuge in Him. Now I want to extend an even more special invitation to you. If this prayer and this message touched your heart, share it with someone who also needs refuge. Share it so that others can find the same comfort that you found. Just as you were touched, you can be the key to bringing God's peace into the lives of others. And please leave your comment below. Your comment could be the word of encouragement that someone needs to hear. It could be the testimony that will edify and strengthen others who are going through the same pain or situation. Do not underestimate the power of your words, because they can be used by God to change lives. And if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, take the opportunity to subscribe, like, and share this video. May this message reach more hearts, and may God's grace and peace multiply in everyone's lives. Let us pray together, trusting in the Lord as our refuge and strength. May He give you rest and hope to move forward in His presence.